Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at johnnydellsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag. Yes, we are here, sounding okay, I believe. Thank you to everyone, the usual suspects like Zach, like Technic Chick, Marcos C, Dr. Steve, everyone, hashtag JD49, always the best way to boost the channel if you are watching live on YouTube. If you are not watching live on YouTube, it is probably because you have not hit the notification bell. So do so, as it is Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, everybody. And I'm just in a good mood because I've made peace with the season, y'all. I'm in my
peace with it.
I'm in my era. I'm in my I've never been in this era before with you, Johnny, but it's loopy
okay.
a little bit.
I feel kind of like Bruce Wayne in Dark Knight Rises when he finds out that Alfred had kept the letter from him, and he says
he exiled him.
I'm supposed to find out that you tore down my entire world, and then we're supposed to shake hands and be at peace after this. It's not how it works.
For the rest
that's how I feel. That's how I feel with the 49ers this season. Is
that's way worse than I feel.
You're supposed to destroy my whole fandom right now. My season of fandom. You're supposed to destroy the YouTube views. No, I'm just kidding. But for real, you're supposed to destroy all of this, all the season hopes, and we're supposed to shake hands and be at peace and walk away. No, there's a few people that I'm a little more than irritated with, and I think it starts none other than the group of men who did not deserve brand new Toyotas, TRD Pros, which are mostly on back order for most lots. I feel like after this season, Adam and I were much more deserving of brand new TRD Pro Tundras than the offensive line, especially not after that performance yesterday.
Just Vorp when you Landville, how do I get a free Tacoma for sucking at my job?
Yeah, I mean, I'd even take a Tacoma. Tundra would be great, because they got Tundras and Sequoias. And probably the hybrid max, and they were terrible. I mean, Jake Brendel cannot start another game for this team. That's okay. I am very pro Kyle Shanahan in a lot of ways. I really support him. I believe in a lot of things he does. One thing I cannot agree with right now is how do you keep putting Jake Brendel out there and watching him have you lose games? Like, if we're just not interested in winning the game, okay, then why are we putting some of the other guys out there? Why is Nick Bosa out there? I get Nick Bosa's probably chasing some contract escalators, likely to be earned incentives, like making the Pro Bowl. I get that with Fred Warner, but then why are you playing Brock Purdy? He's got to lock up a long-term contract, and you're risking him for next year. So why are you playing somebody like him? Why would you trot out Dominic Puni the rest of the year? Save him for next year. Don't let him get rolled up on
Now,
like what happened with Aaron Banks. So
did I say this already? And you said no.
So
fight.
No. I'm saying if you're gonna put Jake Brendel out there,
then why
That's
not?
what I'm saying. Like,
okay.
If you're okay with that and him watching him lose you games,
if you're okay with
you should be doing the other things. Yeah,
then,
if you're okay
do
with
one
this,
and the other.
Right. Okay. Right. Because what more information do you need about Jake Brendel at this point?
Dotsons. Jim, holy crap, you thought he'd bought them Dotsons.
It's true. Yeah.
That's an insult to Dotsons.
Oh boy. Yes, and
Ford Escort.
Most people don't remember the old Datsun. Yeah, we had a Datsun, I think, once. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was a something 500. Like my dad bought it as a car just to drive back and forth to work. He was like, it was a beater that he didn't care about. The only thing that drove him nuts was he got pulled over like every 2 weeks because he was being Datsun profiled. But there was at what point, what more information are you gonna get out of Jake Brendel? What reps learning is Jake Brendel gonna give you? Like, there's no new information, there's no growth that is gonna be happening here. Jake, I almost called Jake Brendel a Dotson. Has shown you he is not a starting caliber center in the NFL. There are teams that have quarterbacks being sacked at a ridiculous rate that have a better center than Jake Brendel. I'm tired of seeing plays blown up and then people blaming our running backs, blaming our receivers, blaming our quarterback for things. I don't know. I don't know how many more times we can say it this year.
Yeah. It's bad
to be a change.
Yeah, it's all bad. I'm going to be in the new year, Johnny, starting in 2025, I'm going to be submitting some, I'm going to call them algo boosts. This is brand new. So I'm going to be telling you guys to boost the algo based on what we're talking about. So the first one is going to be your first crappy car. So as we talk through some of the Niners woes, we talked about my Ford Escort. We talked about Datsuns in the chat, especially when I see so many regulars. We're just hanging out, having fun. Go ahead, boost the algorithm by typing in. I want to see your first beater. What was your first car? What was that you have fond memories of? And later, I want to get into some Christmas movies because we talked about that again, because I see some of our faithful followers in the chat here. Like Cornelius is now in the chat. Jim Cushman, all you guys, we're going to talk little Christmas movies here in a bit. Let's talk about some positives though. Debo. I thought Debo showed some fight. Zach with the 79 Volvo. Yeah, keep those coming.
Hey, I want to say it was Volvo, I think, still holds the record for most miles on an original gas-driven vehicle. And I want to say it was like a 67 Volvo, because I actually owned a Volvo for a while. I owned it. It had a Yamaha built V8 engine in it, but I want to say there's a 67 Volvo that has almost 4 million miles on it. It's a dude in Sweden.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. He drives for work all the time, and he just drives
Lincoln Mark 7,
just all over Sweden. But I want to say
Mustang.
Now it's up to there. My first one was actually a Toyota pickup. If you remember, it wasn't called the Tacoma. The Tacoma only came along after they were doing the T-words for their different trucks. They only had one truck at the time, and it was what became the Tacoma, but it was just a Toyota pickup. I believe it's 94. It wasn't until 96 or 97 that they actually introduced the Tacoma after they introduced the T100, and then they were going to do the T150, but then Ford got mad and said that's too close of a name to our vehicle from F-150 to T-150, so they changed the T-150 to a T word, which was Tundra. But I had a 94 Toyota pickup. I want to say it had like 190,000 miles on it, ran like a top, and I had that in high school, and then my dad sold it out from under me. But I ended up getting another Toyota that had I'm forgetting the name of the engine, but it was that inline six that went in the Supra. If you remember the old Toyota Supra, yeah, that inline six was sweet. I had that for a while. It was
Supra.
It was in a little known Toyota called a Cressida. Not many people knew about the Cressida, but
I love all these vehicles. Love to see them. That's just hilarious. We're talking right now some positives that we saw.
I'm hoping somebody has
Debo.
a citation in here.
So Johnny,
you know.
I gave Debo. What positive did you see from our beloved?
Well, I think again when we've seen what that some statements that have been out there and narratives that have been out there that Debo is slow and he's fat and he doesn't have the explosiveness just aren't true.
Touchdown. Yeah, dude.
I mean, Debo has looked with the ball in his hands like Debo this year. He has. The issue is that there's not as much space created, and so getting the ball in his hands has been a lot tougher. And that has just been, the case of much of this season. When you lose the ability to take the top off the defense from your receiver core, it makes it a lot tougher. And then people say, well, why isn't Ricky Pearsall playing? Well, because you got to second or first and goal from the 2, and Ricky Pearsall for the second time in the drive was just not even lined up correctly.
Dude, like, come on.
And
that was so frustrating.
And so people will say, well, they need to be out there to learn this stuff. This is college stuff. Like, this is
high school.
This is high school and college football stuff of how many players need to be on the line and how and who needs like lining up correctly. This isn't like you missed all these practices. Like, I get some of that, but on the other stuff, like we've been seeing these kind of issues all season. I remember it was a number of weeks ago back against Dallas, the beginning of the Dallas game. We had a false start penalty on a quarterback sneak that Brock had because him and Chris Conley were walking around because they weren't in the right spots right at the snap. It was a quarterback sneak. Like, why are you even moving? It's a quarterback sneak. Just stand there. Like, you were eligible. Like, it was a legal formation, but instead they were like, oh no, we're supposed to be switched. And they start moving around and it was a quarterback sneak. And so you have things like that have been happening. And it makes it really hard for a coach to trust you on the field, to say, I'm going to put you out there. And it's really hard for a quarterback to say, I'm going to throw to a spot and trust that you will be there. Because we always think about, well, they get this connection. Quarterbacks, most of the time, throw to a spot. And that's Brock Purdy's biggest strength, is he's throwing to a spot in time. And if you lose trust in that receiver to be there on time and in the right place, then that connection is going to suffer. And we've seen that, right? Him and Brock Purdy have not been on the same page all season. There's a trust issue there. I'm seeing trust issues with most of Brock's receivers. Like, I think the only 2 guys he trusts right now are George Kittle and Juwan Jennings. I think those are the only 2 guys he really trusts to be in their spot at the right time. But outside of that, you go, this is why. And it's not just like, go put them out there and let them get their lumps. No, you can't. What's going to be happening is you're going to be 3 and out every series. So nobody's learning anything. You're not doing anything as an offense. Right. And so, no, like I'm not on board with the, like, if guys can't even line up correctly, we just need to get them out there and get them reps. And they've got to lock in and focus and get this and have this stuff. Like, you are being well paid and you are part of a very select group of people. You should be able to do that. Now, does that mean, do I think that there's a lot that's overwhelming Ricky Pearsall right now? Yes. And that's another reason why you don't try and just throw more on their plate. He looks like a kid that is overwhelmed of trying to play catch up. And I've seen this narrative of like, Kyle doesn't play rookies. Kyle doesn't like to play rookies. That's not true. It's just not. That's something that we see with certain rookies that people fall in love with and think that they should be playing because we have a belief that they have certain physical attributes that will make them a star or make them a big contributor. So people will fall in love with that evaluation and then say it's on Kyle for not playing them. We've seen George Kittle as a 5th-round pick start as a rookie. And guess what? That guy turned out pretty good because he earned his way onto the field. Right. And he actually was a player. We saw Fred Warner work his way onto the field as a rookie and start as a 3rd-round pick. And he turned out really well. And it turned out he was a really good player. And so there's a reason he got on the field. Deebo Samuel is a 2nd-round pick, started his entire rookie year and in the Super Bowl. And it turned out there was a very good reason. Dre Greenlaw, as a 5th-round pick, made it onto the field and started as a rookie and started in the Super Bowl. And that guy turned out to be pretty good. Dominic Puni, as a 3rd-round pick, has started and earned his way onto the field. And he's turned out to be a pretty good pick. Malik Mustafa, as a 3rd or 4th-round pick, has made his way onto the field and is a starter and is looking like a really good pick. Renardo Green was not a 1st-round pick. Not to mention the 1st-round picks that were starters. So, yes, he has played rookies when they've earned their way on the field. And guess what? The ones who have actually have been really good players. But I remember this conversation happening about different guys, and then it turns out they go somewhere and nothing happens. Because I remember the same conversation about why wasn't Trey Lance playing? Why was Sam Darnold the number 2 quarterback over Trey Lance? That was a huge misstep and miscalculation by Kyle Shanahan. He needed Trey Lance should be the number 2 quarterback. Well, one guy between those two is looking like he's going to have a chance to play maybe in the conference championship game because their team's rolling and they're one of the top 3 teams leading this conference. And the other guy is buried on a depth chart with a team as bad as the 49ers. So people lock you into an evaluation of a certain player and say, like Jacob Cowing, he needs to be out on the field. He needs to be out on the field. Okay, there's a reason he's not. And it's not because Kyle won't play rookies. He's shown this before. Okay. Now, on the other side of that, again, I don't understand why Jake Brendel's still out there. I will support Kyle Shanahan and why Jacob Cowing is not on the field, but I will not support him of why Jake Brendel is on the field. I'm just over that.
Yeah, we're excited to see what changes there. The chat has been going on a little bit about Ricky Pearsall. I want to hear your thoughts, Johnny, on the idea that you simply can't call him a bust quite yet, as he hasn't had a full, not only a full regular season, but even with the off season as well, with the whole, not even just injury. I mean, even getting shot that had nothing to do with him trying to rehabilitate and get back from his injury. But I definitely agree with most people that say, look, Zach, it is true that he missed the offseason. It is true that he's making boneheaded mistakes. Both are true. It's laughable to call Pearsall a bust right now.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Jerry Rice had a lot of issues and
a lot of drops.
Okay, here's the thing. Whenever you say things like that, people are like, well, it's not even put it. No. It's not. It's just saying the point is that even really good players can have a really bumpy start. The point is bad players can have a really bumpy start. You don't know. And so it's just way too early to tell. As far as with Pettis and Goodwin, Pettis was the X and he ended up playing so poorly. They went and traded for Emmanuel Sanders. Goodwin was in place over Deebo as the Z, and he ended up getting hurt. But Deebo played the Z there, or the flanker, whereas split end or X was Dante Pettis, because and Dante Pettis was another example, 2nd-round pick. He started, it was pretty much his entire rookie year. It was him and Pierre Garçon in 2018, and he was showing a lot of promise, and then he fell off a cliff in that 2nd year, and that's when they traded for Emmanuel Sanders mid-season, and Emmanuel Sanders instantly supplanted Dante Pettis, and he was buried on the depth chart after that. Yeah. And Emmanuel's and everything. So the last thing I think I want to really touch on with yesterday's game is the Brock Purdy interception. So the film is up here on the NFL Game Pass. So I'll bring this full view here, and so everybody can see my cursor.
The whys and hows.
Yes, we're gonna go over some whys and hows. And I can't slow this down like I normally do because this is not the cool version. I haven't gotten that yet. But I broke this down on X2 real quick before I came on. That's one reason I was a little late on updating my driver. But anyways, so the Dolphins are showing single safety here. Okay, they're in a bump man alignment. You see that up top. You see that here and on Juwan Jennings. It's Ricky Pearsall up top. This is Juwan Jennings in the slot. Deebo Samuel out wide. Okay. So, and you're going to see this with the motion. It looks like bump man. Okay. Now here, right at the snap, I want to talk about the defense first. First, I'll talk about Deebo Samuel. So Deebo Samuel is going to run. This is a dagger. We've seen this so many times. You're going to run down the seam, clear this out. Okay. And Juwan Jennings is going to run a Dover route. So he's going to come down. He's going to break at 10, roll to 16. Okay, so that's going to put him around the 35 to 34 is where this route is going to end up breaking. Okay, is where they're going to put this, look to have this. The Dolphins, again, showing single high press man, are now backing out, and they're in Tampa too. So safety's dropping deep. You got the mic. Okay, so that means you're going to have two underneath, and the middle mic player has to match the number 3 down the middle of the field. That's going to be Deebo. He's the number 3. He's going to go down the middle of the field, so the mic should be matching him. And then that'll open up. You're going to have Jennings on this Dover, and you're going to have George Kittle's going to come and sit down at about the 50. And so that gives you a 3-level vertical stretch. You're going to have the deep streak, the Dover, and then George Kittle on a squat underneath. Okay, so as Brock Purdy's dropping back, he's hit his back foot. What does he see? He sees safeties are in a bail. He sees the mic is locked onto Deebo, who's running this clearing route, and he sees the nickel has squatted. Now George Kittle's going to loop this back around. That's again to keep the timing on this Dover and really put a vertical stretch in here. And so at Jennings' break, this is the ball has been thrown. You can see Jennings is heading. He's rolling this. This is what's called a speed cut. They don't have a square cut here. This is a speed cut, so it's not a sharp break in. It is a roll cut. They want to keep these guys on the move and at high speed the whole way. The idea is to catch it on the run and run up the sideline. We've seen that so many times. So Brock is trying to put this ball down to the 35 or 34. You can see the defender is nowhere close to that. He is squatting. He's flat-footed. But Brock's been hit as he's thrown. So the guy makes a diving catch at the 40. Understand that. He's making a diving catch at the 40, not the 35, where they want this ball in the middle of between the hashes at the 35. It's not there. We all saw on the broadcast Juwan Jennings come back to the ball because he saw it coming short, and he comes into the frame, and it looks like he's just completely covered. Okay, that is not what happened here. That looks that way because of the broadcast, because you don't see what's happening down the field. That's why we have to watch film so much. What happens in the front end? Well, watch Jake Brendel here. He's going to get locked on, and there we go. 92 or 62 and 64 and 63. Absolutely no awareness for a stunt. So when people say that's on Brock Purdy, the throw wasn't even there. Yes, it was. The throw was absolutely there. We've seen Brock make that throw 100 times on that same play. It was open. Protection didn't hold up. And so, when I keep seeing people, Brock, that's why I can't trust Brock Purdy. No, that's why I can't trust the offensive line.
Right. That's not.
The throw is there. The throw is there.
And he has to make it. We're down. Some of the interceptions where he's forced it, I'm okay with, because you got to force it at those times.
Yeah, what you aren't okay with is your offensive line allowing your quarterback to get creamed in a moment like that. The offensive line has got to be fixed. I'm tired of watching the offensive line lose this games like that. I'm just tired of it.
Yeah. Shout out to Adam We live in his head rent free. I hope he stays and continues to boost the algorithm as we polish all of our Super Bowl rings. We always welcome haters. Be somewhat respectful. But I did say he's a
Wow.
disgrace to Adams everywhere.
How'd you even find this channel, bro?
I know, right? That's what hey, man. Probably because
what are
people
you
like
watching?
Zach.
What are you watching for Zach coming in with a super chat? Been fighting the hideous INT narrative on X all day yesterday. It is.
Yeah,
And that
very
was
ignorant.
first thing I did when I came in. I was like, I want to see. Look, if it's really bad, I'll tell everybody it's bad because let's look at the film and let's see what it is. And I posted. That's what I thought happened on X, like just from seeing it. And Rich Madrid, he commented the same thing. Said he thought it was the same thing. Tampa 2. The mic went out. It just we were gonna have to see how deep was the route, how much did that nickel settle. You have to see that to know was that throw there or not, but it did look like it went to Tampa 2, that the mic had cleared out, and so you would think that throw would be there. That's what Kyle Shanahan said. He said the nickel squatted and Brock was trying to layer the throw down the middle, and you see it was there. Like Juwan was 5 yards behind the guy, heading at an angle, and the guy's flat-footed. So he had no chance to make a play on where the ball would have gone. And we've seen Brock make that throw so many times, but it is what it is. And I hope, and that's why I posted stuff to X. I mean, I hope that goes around and people can say, okay, this wasn't what we thought it was. But there's going to be people who have already, put the blinders on and said, don't hit me with facts. I made up my mind. Right. And I already have just determined that Brock is not the guy because because he hurt me yesterday, or it just wasn't good enough. And it's just a blanket statement. And you go, okay, which is it? What quarterback are you putting behind this offensive line? How you feel about this? And that you feel like would have a 12-win season.
Yeah, there's just
that's what I want to hear is right. Okay, let's take the different quarterbacks and you do an evaluation. Where do you think our offensive line ranks as it was yesterday at the end of the game? Where does it rank around the league? Is it 20th? Is it 26th? Where does it rank? Okay, then put whatever quarterback you would deem as elite. I hate that term, but that we deem that term, because I hate that term because it's just a talking point. I remember that talking point being around about Eli Manning. Is Eli Manning elite? And then he wins 2 Super Bowls. And it was like, well, I don't know. I don't think so. The regular season wasn't that great. And then he wins 2 Super Bowls. And everyone's like, well, yeah, he was pretty good. Eli Manning had some terrible seasons. Yeah. But he still won 2 Super Bowls.
He's a 500 quarterback. Did you know that? He's won and lost exactly the same amount.
Exactly. Which Eli Manning was a 500 quarterback. Won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah. And who were they against, Johnny? A 16-0 team.
I want to say Tim.
Tim Brody.
Yeah, Tim something.
Tim Brody out of
maybe
Waukegan.
Tom something
from Waukegan, Illinois.
Yeah. Anyways,
no, we got to fix the
O-line. That's what happens is people like have that sort of thing, and it's just locked into what they believe it is here, and anything, and then it becomes a chicken and egg argument. Okay, so if Brock Purdy has success now, it's because he's got so many pieces around him, and then if he doesn't have success, it's because he's not good enough. It can't be that he's made some players better around him. Can't be that. So it's just chicken and eggs. It is what it is. So, unfortunately, this is what we wade through in a bad season. I mean, this is a bad season. We lost to a bad team. The Dolphins were not a good team when we lost to a bad team.
We improved the draft prospect, something I was a little bit snickering about because I had talked about, like, if we find a way to lose, but I would have rather see the offensive line string together some decent drives, and it just didn't happen. So, like, I was still obviously frustrated, tongue in cheek, but ultimately, yeah, this has not gone the way that we want it to go. What we would like you to do for sure, though, is to make sure that you show the channel this. We haven't gone through this because the 49ers have been so dominant. It's so easy to show 49er fans this channel. But those of you who are loyal to us, we really need you now more than before, because the 49ers sell themselves all over the country when they're doing so well. So now you really have to take your phone and show it to someone in fellow misery and say, hey, this channel's great because they try to have their head on straight and show you the whys and hows and show you the breakdowns. Johnny obviously does a great job. So be sure to keep doing that for us. And so I want to go through a little bit some Christmas movies. I was excited to hear what your kids are into, Johnny, and we'll do
Oh.
another algo boost of, if you could only, this is for the chat, if you could only pick one Christmas movie to take with you on a plane and you're going somewhere that you've never been to show someone this movie, what would that movie be, and why is it A Charlie Brown Christmas? That's mine. So let's get into some Christmas movies.
Christmas
First, Johnny,
movies, yeah.
what is your movie that you're in this, analogy, you're bringing on a plane to watch and you're going to show it to someone? Love Actually. That's an interesting choice. We got Muppet Christmas. You're Muppet Christmas, aren't you, Johnny?
I'm a sucker for a good Muppet Christmas movie. Now, we
Your
haven't watched
wife,
it yet this year. We haven't watched
Dawn,
it yet.
says
Yeah, my
Song
wife
Santa
is
Claus.
totally in the Santa Claus. So
Tim Allen, with Tim Allen,
Tim Allen, yeah.
Okay.
So, and there's actually some really interesting backstory and neat backstory with my family on that. So, one big shout out to my daughter, Gabby Delmark. Gabby, that it is her 8th birthday on December 24th. And I want to say happy birthday,
Oh,
baby
happy birthday.
girl.
Happy birthday.
So it's her birthday tomorrow. She's very much her father's daughter. So, but the night before she was born, what ended up happening was I was gutting our kitchen. We had bought this little house here in Alabama. It was 1,050 square feet. It was a small house, and we had just added on. We had taken in a carport that was there, so we added on about 500 square feet, and this was a house from the early 70s. Okay, so it's like this wasn't, and it had been sort of like a really cheap reno in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. So it was very, very dated. And so when we bought the house, what we knew is we were going to gut the kitchen. Well, I started to do that while my wife was 6 months pregnant. That is not a good idea. I mean, when I say gut, I mean to the studs and subfloor. I had to replace some of the subfloor because there was a leak behind in the drain that was in the wall behind the cabinets. And I did this all myself. So I ripped out everything, had to pull up 3 layers of subfloor, sister some joists, had to redo venting and all that stuff. And I had put together everything. I reframed some walls, opened the thing up and made a little more open concept. And so I had got everything. I'd done the tile, and I had ordered the cabinets in, and I was putting the cabinets together in what was the kitchen space. And my wife was watching the Santa Claus, and I started putting together the Lazy Susan cabinet. And if you've never put together a Lazy Susan, that is the cabinet from the pit of Hades. And so I started at the beginning of the movie. My wife finished the movie, and I had just finished putting together the Lazy Susan. That's how long it took me to put the Lazy Susan together. But then from there, we were like, well, we need to go get some dinner because it was like 8 o'clock, and we didn't have a kitchen. Like we had a fridge. I had a fridge that I kept just moving around from one side of the kitchen to the other as I was working on different sides, and all the appliances were in the dining room. And so then we needed to also go out and get some samples of some handles and pulls for the cabinet drawers and doors. And that was going to be about 40 minutes away in another city. And so we were like, all right, let's go down there. We'll go and eat. and then we'll go to Lowe's, get some samples, and then we'll go eat. And so we did that. We went to Lowe's and we went to eat, and we sat down in the restaurant, and literally they dropped our food off the table, and my wife's water broke. Now she was still at 32, just a little over 32 weeks or 33 weeks. Yeah. So like not expecting this at all. Just like straight water broke, and that was about 9:30. 4.5 hours later, my daughter was born. So
holy cow.
Now thankfully we were literally
Christmas
only
miracle.
5 minutes away from the hospital. So we went over there. And that's a whole different story in itself. But so there is a connection there that was the last thing we watched before my daughter was born. On Christmas Eve was the Santa Claus. So there is a connection to that. My wife loves that movie, The Santa Claus.
Tim Allen is great in that. He's good.
Now my kids, they
Grinch.
And I had to watch this movie way too many times. I like the Ron Howard Grinch movie. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Yeah, with Jim Carrey and the yak hair. They love the Illumination 2018 Grinch movie with Benedict Cumberbatch as the Grinch, the animated one. They love that movie. They will watch that movie year round. They love that movie. I'm also a little partial to A Christmas Story. I like it. My wife is burnt out on it. Her family, all growing up, they used to always do the 24 hours of A Christmas Story on TBS and TNT, and she just got completely burnt out on it. But
it's pretty classic. I mean,
yeah, it is. So, I would say if it was about telling somebody what kind of humor I like, I would say A Christmas Story. If it's about just telling the story of Christmas, up A Christmas Carol. Come on.
Yeah, Christmas Carol's good. But for telling the Christmas story, that is why I love Linus. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, but it also doesn't have Michael Caine in it. I mean, so
that's fair. But it does have that guy dancing in place. Remember the scene in that where the Peanuts characters are dancing? It's so like 1950s. It's so 60s. It's terrible, but it's so funny, and it still holds up. Glass City says Home Alone. We haven't got into any of those.
Yeah, those are solid. I mean, they're solid. Man,
those are very, very classic. Fun to see. Like I love
classic John Hughes. John Hughes written movies.
John Hughes, all his movies. Yeah. I love to see John Candy. When you hear, I love the nuances of hearing interviews about Jim Carrey putting on the makeup and how he hated it with Grinch, and John Candy in Home Alone, that entire scene with the mother in the back of that vehicle.
Improv.
Yeah. They're just utter and complete, just like talking. And that is so funny. And it's so John Candy. And I love that dude.
Well, and not even in the back, like when they're at the airport, like a lot of that was improv too, of him just sitting there talking about the different bands that they have and all that stuff. Yeah. So
great word, soliloquy. That is exactly how I feel about, like, it's just so Christmas. Like that line by Linus, and like how the whole tone of the show is changed right there. Like it's just when you watch it with someone who loves it as much, you just get goosebumps watching that stuff. Like I don't think you get goosebumps watching A Christmas Story. It's a great movie. You laugh.
Right.
I get a headache from laughing so hard. Fudge. Like, I mean, it's amazing. And
my father wove a tapestry of profanities that is still hanging over like the Erie today.
Here's the thing, guys. I live an hour and a half away from where the movie takes place. Now, they shot it in Cleveland, Ohio. It's on Cleveland Street, but it is in Indiana. Like, it's just, so it's a bigger thing. I know I'm from the Bay, and I am FTTB all the way, but it is pretty cool. Like, us Indiana Hoosiers, they call us. I still don't know what the heck that means. And I will say, when I went to the Notre Dame game this weekend, the Notre Dame fans were quite witty in their chants. They were chanting like, "Who's your daddy?"
I gotta then flip this on its head and say, okay, what is an overrated Christmas movie? Like a movie that you think?
I just wanted to like erupt the chat. I'm kidding.
He's that is peak trolling right there.
Yeah, no, yeah.
What's an
Maybe a Christmas story. A Christmas story, maybe.
For me, it's White
Because
Christmas.
the 24 hours of,
Yeah, for me, it's White Christmas. Because growing up, my sisters would
I don't like
always
White Christmas.
watch White Christmas, and I only cared about the first 5 minutes when they were in the war. And
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
not
and after that, it
entertaining.
got really boring.
What about
So
A Wonderful Life? Is not as entertaining.
no, I think A Wonderful Life, like it has a lot of charm and there's a great message there. White
For sure.
Christmas, I'm just like, why are these guys
Quiffle
dressing
ball.
as dancer ladies? And then like it has one of the lamest climaxes I think ever at the end as Bing Crosby. They open the doors and it's I'm dreaming of a white, and you're just like,
It was
okay, I'm
pretty
about to
good.
fall asleep.
You and I
I'm about to
both
fall
do a
asleep.
good Bing.
Yeah. Um, so I think White Christmas is overrated. I think Miracle on 34th Street. I think that's overrated.
But I don't hear of it that much. What about Nutcracker? How are you cracking nuts?
Like the
That's a
ballet?
Christmas. Well, yeah, like they have movies of, I'm sure, like on Lifetime or
Well, I
something.
think
I don't know.
Disney just did a Nutcracker, but I don't ever hear anybody being like, we're gonna watch Christmas movies. I'm watching the Nutcracker. Like I mean, I don't see that. So what is you in the chat?
Yeah.
What is
Polar
your
Express. Elf. We got some votes for Elf as
as
overrated. I
overrated?
mean,
Interesting,
that's interesting for
fascinating.
sure.
Yeah.
But there are people who just don't like Will Ferrell. They just think he just sounds stupid. Like, what are you like? He's over trying, and I do get that part of it. And Zach, I do watch A Wonderful Life because my mom loves it, and I watch it every year too. So it's not that I dislike it, but it's also a movie that you can watch all year round, even though yes, it's Christmas. That's what, like, Die Hard, Gremlins, Batman Returns. These are all movies that yes, they came out in December, and therefore Christmas is going on. But that's why I argue, which you guys,
Well, in that case, okay, if it was just about a movie coming out in December, then wouldn't Lord of the Rings be Christmas
that's an
movies?
argument. So now I like that you bring that up because we
I mean, they
talked
were
about
all
this.
released on like December, what, 12th? Like 12th
Yeah,
through the 20th of
in
in successive years?
no, for sure. And what
It's
I'm saying
wild, right?
is this is what we talk about in our last Thursday episode of Sports Idiot Nation, where we get into Christmas movies, because there is that argument. There
Approved
was
Rosebud.
there was Transformers movies, a couple of them, maybe one of them at least, that came out in December. It doesn't mean it's a Christmas movie. Like, just because a movie comes out in December does not make it a Christmas movie. The argument for Die Hard as a Christmas movie is that it is referenced over 50 times, whereas in Transformers, the one that I'm thinking of, I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't very good. It's not really referenced. And
Again, hard
so,
to narrow down there. I
yeah,
mean, they're Michael Bay films, so
right.
um well, and so like I think what make Die Hard again is obviously set during Christmas. He kills the one guy and he's like ho ho ho, and now I have a machine gun. I mean the it's a Christmas their party and there's Christmas tree there and all that stuff.
Callie
So
Young, I don't know. Big? What? I never
it's
associated.
big with nah,
That's
I
a
don't no
good.
big isn't a Christmas movie. I can't
I
get there.
wouldn't think.
And Citizen Kane, definitely not a Christmas movie. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm just trying to think if there's anything I'm leaving out. Um, you know, Now do some holiday movies count, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? I mean,
But that's
that's Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
That's what I said. I don't They're kind of the same season though, same
Yeah.
idea.
Nightmare
There's not
Before
many
Christmas.
Thanksgiving movies. I want to say that like kudos for them for making an actual Thanksgiving movie. It's the movieless holiday that they represented there.
Charlie
But
Brown Thanksgiving. Another good
yeah,
one. The
yeah.
popcorn
But
and the candy. They just throw all the plates out there.
Okay, so let's circle it back around and say, if you could get one Christmas present for the 49ers this year, what would it be?
Man, so I will say a plethora of draft picks, I guess, because I want to get younger. We're at that stage where, like 4 or 5 years ago, I felt so good. Like, hey, wow, we're a young team. Like, you look at a team like the Green Bay Packers, they have to feel. If I were a Packer fan overall, I know Detroit and Minnesota are absolutely surging, but I got to feel pretty good based on how young and talented my team is. And there is something to be said about that. And you just don't want to get old. The 49ers have done that
Tell me
before,
about it.
and it faded out, and it faded out into the abyss, and it faded out to Tim Rattay. And I don't want to fade out to Tim Rattay's son, who's probably a fine quarterback somewhere. But I just don't want to do that. So I want some young guys. I want Renardo Green and Malik and all those guys to get better. I want Huff is still not very old. I want him to heal. I want, so I want draft picks. I don't know how we're going to get them. It's be a Christmas miracle, but I want more than what is coming to us. All I want is what I have coming to me. All I want is my fair share.
Well, the age argument is an interesting one to me because when I look at the team and the makeup of the team, I think there are a couple guys who are dragging the age, skewing it higher because the average age on the 49ers team right now is 27 years old. And when you look at, okay, well, who's dragging the age up? It's going to be one Trent Williams, who's 36.
For
That's
sure.
gonna really pull your age up. It's, Kyle Juszczyk, who's 31, I think.
Yeah.
George Kittle,
Kittle.
who's now, what, 30? 31. Those are the old guys on the team, the guys that are a lot older. It's Leonard Floyd, who's, again, 30. Those are the guys that are pulling your age bracket up. Outside of that, you're not really that old. I mean, the
That's
average
fair.
in there
I just
is gonna be Fred Warner and Christian McCaffrey, who are both, they're at like 28, 27, and 28. Um, they're not old. And
lineman
so
for sure is what I would want, which,
and
by the
so
way, shout out to Cornelius. He did give a super chat, Johnny.
oh, yes.
Great, and because he says, great thing, this draft is loaded with linemen. He mentioned that,
Yes.
and that is a key thing for sure. I do want us. We're talking about getting the Niners Christmas presents.
Yeah. And you have Jake Brendel, who's north of 30, I believe. And so,
32.
so when you look at that, like, you can when we say we need to get younger, well, most of the guys that are older, we're not seeing a huge drop off in their play. We're not talking
Definitely
about
not Kittle.
Trent Williams, definitely not Kittle, not Fred Warner. Like these are areas that we're looking at and going, Juszczyk even, like, I'm not sitting there going, we desperately need to get younger there because our age is why we're not succeeding right now. It's actually a lot of missing guys who aren't old. That's been a problem. And it's been some of the young guys that are some of the problem. Now, where I think the biggest way you can shift younger is by getting rid of Jake Brendel and getting a young center, a young, good center. So I think that's where, I'm not that concerned about the 49ers age because the guys who are getting older are still playing at a really high level. So the drop off isn't from the old guys just getting old and not performing. And so, and then they've shown, no problem letting guys walk who are at that point and kind of moving on. I think you're going to see Javon Hargrave go this offseason. And so that and Jake Brendel, I think, do drop your average age down to probably 26. And now all of a sudden you're, 15th youngest in the league, and you get two new starters in those areas, which they desperately need. They're not strong enough on both lines. And so for me, a Christmas gift would be a top 10 center. Like we haven't seen Kyle Shanahan with that since Weston Richburg. And the team with Weston Richburg was phenomenal. They started out the season 8-0.
There's a name.
And I still wonder what would have happened with this franchise if Weston Richburg had not tore his patellar tendon. I just wonder, because especially when you look at the back end of that Super Bowl, so many O-line issues there. Yeah. Lisa, I'm late to the party. We are looking for a vet in the draft or getting a vet. Because I'm done with Brendel and Banks. We need a good backup left tackle too. I think they re-sign Moore. I really do. I think he's shown enough to be a backup this season. I don't think he's a long-term answer at either tackle. People would just say, just throw him over the right tackle. I don't think it works as easily that way. And I think Spencer Burford is a great cautionary tale. Somebody who played on the left side his entire life and through college, and then in the NFL got moved over to the right side. And then we saw a lot of issues there of slow footwork and balance and things like that. And then he moves back over to left this year. He's played left guard and left tackle. And guess what? He looked a lot better. There really is something to that. So I don't think, not everybody can do what Joe Staley did, and that's play right tackle for a little while and then for 1 year and then move over to left tackle and be Hall of Fame. Like that's not normal for people to do that. So I'm going to be, probably once we get into January here, really diving into the centers. I think when we get to now, the hard thing about center, and here's where it is a little tough, especially when but this is where the Senior Bowl could be really helpful, because so often, especially in college schemes, centers are not one-on-one in pass pro. And so, and they don't run a ton of crazy stunting schemes. Like there are some, but there's just not as many because they don't have as much time to teach the kids those things. So like I remember when I went to the Senior Bowl last couple of years and I wasn't paying attention to the centers as much in one-on-ones, and it would come to the team reps and I would watch them. Most of the time they were just, slide over and help a 3 tech or 1 tech. And so they were very rarely isolated. It was more you could see some run blocking stuff, but I'm going to be paying attention a lot more to those guys in the one-on-ones this year at the Senior Bowl, and really looking at, who's there that can stand up and be a physical stud, but also has the mental makeup to do what they need to do, because there's got to be a change. They cannot go into next year with Jake Brendel as center.
Yeah, no way. We'll definitely do a show where we really go over team need, and as far as because Glass City asked free agent center or draft a center. I don't think right now in this point of the season we could really even speak on it. However, it is a great question, and I do want to talk about it, Glass City. So all that means is that you have to stay subscribed, make sure the notification bell is hit, so that when we do talk about it, that that you are aware that we are going to be talking about it. Because for sure, probably February and March is when we'll really get into that stuff. But I mentioned earlier in the chat too, this is one of the most fun shows that we've done. Episode 185 is a banger officially. So again, be sure to show people your phone, show them the channel. Be sure to like and subscribe because it helps us out immensely. And we want to grow the faithful. We've grown every year. Johnny has grown every year, pushing to the next 1,000 is 26,000 subscribers. And be sure also to catch me on Sports Idiot Nation for more fun like this. New episodes are every Monday and Thursday, which means that a new episode was dropped earlier today, talking everything that happened this week in and around the sports world. All right. So Merry Christmas, Johnny, to your family. Give your kids extra hug from the faithful. I know a lot of the faithful wished your daughter happy birthday. So be sure to tell her that all the fans on Daddy's show said happy birthday. Because I did see quite a few of those come in the chat earlier. And We'll catch you guys Friday. Still the plan then, Johnny?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So again, guys, thanks for being a part of this. Situation is new to us where it's not as fun to talk about the game and that kind of thing. Jim says, wait, we can't leave. He's not done wrapping presents yet. And this is what I'm talking about. I love hanging out
He's
with you
got the
guys.
show on, well, and have it planned to go while he's wrapping presents.
Holy cow.
Oh, Zach coming in, saving the show.
He says, I'd like to point out that Patrick Mahomes can't tell the future either. So saying Purdy's pick was a bad decision because he couldn't make the throw due to pressure was a bad decision. It's pretty silly.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I mean, things happen in an instant. You're trying to win a game, and so quarterback's trying to get the ball out, and yeah. I mean, it's classic. It ended up bad, so therefore it was a bad decision.
Right.
Like,
Just like when Purdy got hurt.
2020 hindsight. I mean, so thinking about that exact thing, I was watching. Who was I watching yesterday? It was the Eagles. It was the Eagles and Commanders game.
I'm glad they lost.
And it was the play. Nick, what's his butt?
Oh yeah, what's his butt?
They had to bring in quarterback because Jalen Hurts went down. Kid used to play in Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett. So Kenny Pickett's out there. Okay, they run a play action pass. They had both their tight ends blocking. It was the Commanders stud pass rusher that was over there. Totally blanking on his name right now. But anyways, there's your stud pass rusher. He comes around the edge, beats both their tight ends on the play action pass, and causes a strip sack. Okay, on the play. Now the Eagles ended up recovering that one, but I was sitting there and I was like, how many 49, because I knew a bunch of 49ers fans were watching that game. I was watching it on X, and I was like, how many 49ers fans are going to turn around and just bag on the Eagles for doing that? None. I didn't see any of them. But when Kyle Shanahan does it in the Eagles, he's the dumbest coach. And why would you ever do that? That makes no sense. You don't do that. That's so stupid. Why would you? And so like we saw that, right? So it's classic everything. It's this affected me as my team. So I amplify that this mistake or this decision was bad. And when somebody else does it, it doesn't bother you. So it's just like, that stuff happens. That's a perfect example. And because I remember watching that, and I was like, they ran two tight ends. It was max protect off the play action, and so they slid the whole line one way to sell the play, the run fake, and that left two tight ends on the backside against I keep wanting to say Redskins, the Commanders' top pass rusher, and he beat both of them quick. I mean, he really only beat one guy, and the other guy was like jumping out and trying to stop him. And so they ran over a strip sack, and you go, okay, look, and the Eagles lost. So, but I don't see the same sort of vitriol, or superlatives used against their coaching staff and their players, because they're in the middle of a great season. They're having a great season.
Yeah.
And so, look, that's a very common thing. We have to remember that these things, like, they happen, and there's a lot of commonality that everybody does these things. And I don't think we should ever excuse an offensive line for horrible pass protection, or say that your quarterback just needs to, because when quarterbacks start playing like they're going to get really bad pass protection all the time, that's when they start playing really bad. Like, we saw that in Sam Darnold for years. Dude would see ghosts all the time, right?
Yeah, ghosts.
Like that. So when people say, well, Purdy shouldn't do that, actually, I want him to keep doing that, because when the protection holds up, then he's going to hit the explosives, and they're going to be there. When he stops doing that, he's going to become ineffective as a quarterback.
Right.
Because then he's going to not pull the trigger when the play is there, because he's going to assume it isn't going to be there, or he's going to try and bail out of the pocket when the pocket is fine and the play would be there. And we saw it with Justin Fields for a long time. Justin Fields would just run out of the pocket for no reason all the time. in his first couple of years because he was getting sacked so much. He was one of the most. The same thing might just happen to Caleb Williams if they don't figure out their offensive line, because he's about to be sacked more than any quarterback in history. So, like, people saying Purdy should have been able to know that the pressure is coming and don't make that throw. The moment he starts doing that, he is going to become a very ineffective quarterback. And so, no, I want him to keep doing that. Now, if he just keeps doing that and can't make any good plays then that's a different discussion. That's when you start getting into the Jimmy G kind of thing, where that was Jimmy G's biggest problem was that he would do that even when the pressure wasn't there, or sometimes when the pressure was there, didn't know how to just eat the play. Like, I get that. But I want my quarterback when the play is there, because Jimmy would just fire the ball in there when it was covered anyways. That wasn't the case here. This is the case. The play is there. The window is open, as I showed. And so you want him to try and fire the ball. If he can't come through because of the other things, that's what it is. And Lisa, I coming in with a super chat. Like, I've seen some of the Justin Fields talk. That's wild to me. I don't think Kyle has any interest in Justin Fields. If he wanted Justin Fields, he would have got him.
Yeah. No, not at all.
I've never seen anything from Justin Fields that says he would work in a Kyle Shanahan offense. It's a very timing offense. And so it's a very timing based offense, and that is not his strong suit.
No.
But you look at when Brock Purdy's on, this offense looks, we had moments in this game where it started to look like that, where the offense looks, it's moving, and then you shoot yourself in the foot, and the offensive line can't open any holes, and you can't do anything. So
that's crazy. That's crazy to me. I saw a lot of Justin Fields because I was forced to see a lot of Bears games from where I live. That was like the local game on, and like, just no, that's hilarious. But definitely, this is what I love, talking through the whys and hows of the game. So again, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when we have new content. Glass City asked earlier, Johnny, about 5 minutes ago, are you still doing a review video this week with?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do one. It's probably not gonna be an edited video. I've been doing more of these live unedited videos this year, just because of a lot of it's really just time. I've been extremely busy this year. And so I'll try, but I do try and put something out each time. I did a live show last week talking about a number of the O-line issues that are, and there was a lot of issues there with Isaac Orendo. It's just very frustrating to watch that stuff over and over again. And I feel like this week's going to be the same thing. I mean, I'll wait to fully pass judgment on like how Aaron Banks played, but I mean, I don't know. Aaron Banks may have just lost himself next year as well. But see how that worked out. Look at Colton McKivitz. Look at Jalen Moore. Look at Nick Zakelj. I'm interested to see, with his little bit of playing time. Look at what Spencer Burford looked like at left
tackle. What's he? Is he done?
No matter what happens with Feliciano, he can't be counted on. He's got to be plan C. So, if he's able to be there and give you something, great. That's bonus at this point.
But don't plan on it.
But you don't plan on that. So there will be some sort of film review this week.
Awesome. So yeah, don't plan on that, but do plan on checking us out later this week, as well as Johnny's review video. So for that, we will say, as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Niners.